Thank you so much for joining us. We'll get started in a few minutes. In the meantime, drop a comment and let me know your name, province, and if you have any questions that we can address later. All right, we are ready to get going. I'm so excited to have you here. Today, we'll talk about how you can get your P.Eng in 2025 or early 2026, depending on where you are at in the process. Today, I'll cover the key steps to becoming a professional engineer in Canada in 2025. I'll start off with a quick company introduction. I'll then discuss the initial application process, then the technical exams. We'll then dive into the competency-based assessment, which is a fancy way of saying your work experience examples. Following that, we'll cover the National Professional Practice Exam, NPPE, which is a critical part of the licensing process for testing your law and ethics knowledge. We'll also discuss some roadblocks that are common to the 5,000 EITs that we help each year. Finally, we'll open it up for a Q&A session, and I've invited a past client to share her experiences with us as well. It's great to see all the names come in. Hi, Cheryl. Hi, everybody. Hi, Pardip. Quick question. Can you guys hear me okay? Just give me a thumbs up or just say yes. And that way I know that my system is working properly. As an organization, we are dedicated to helping aspiring engineers get their P.Eng up to 50% quicker. On average, we help more than one engineer get licensed every day. Our courses and services have assisted over 21,000 people since 2012, and we currently help 5,000 EITs per year. About 60% of our clients are foreign educated engineers, so we understand the unique challenges from studying and working abroad. In helping aspiring engineers each and every day, we found that by focusing all our attention on learning the licensing process and providing no fluff courses and support, we can get EITs to their career milestone up to 50% quicker. To learn more about the people we've helped, you can search the P.Eng class hashtag on LinkedIn. Let's look at the licensing process. Step one is the initial application, and it's really the first critical step in becoming a licensed professional engineer. This involves completing a survey to set up your online application portal and confirm your eligibility. You'll need to provide documentation like your 4 years of, like your 4-year engineering degree, 4 years of relevant work experience, identification like a driver's license, and also demonstrate good character, which is usually by having a clean criminal record. The application fee is about $500 to start the process, which covers your initial application review, as well as your work history summary. The associations across Canada typically take about 2 months to review the initial application, so it's important to account for that time in your licensing journey. Getting the initial application right is important as it prevents back and forth with your association. Let's look at step 2, technical exams. Technical exams are for internationally educated engineers that have a gap between their education and the Canadian equivalent degree. There are 2 sittings for the technical exam. There's a spring-summer sitting, April to July, and there's a fall sitting from October to December. All exams are written online and require you to show your solutions on paper. Once you've done that, you have to scan your solutions and send them for review the same day. Applicants who have to write exams have to write on average of 4 exams, 1 complementary studies, and 3 exams related to their degree. Most associations allow you to rewrite your technical exams an unlimited amount of times, but each failure costs you time and money. So it's important that you prepare for each one. Budget $1,000 for each exam to cover your sitting fee, textbooks, and solutions to past exams. When choosing technical exams, look for an exam that shares these 3 things. It has a high pass rate. Its syllabus topics are ones that you enjoy. And the topic or the area of the exam is where you have some existing knowledge. If you want to scan the QR code, you can email us for past exam results, and we can share those with you to help inform your technical exam decisions. Picking exams you're passionate about makes your studying more rewarding and builds on your current strengths to improve your chances. I didn't want to spend too much time on the technical exams because I know not everyone on this call is going to write them. So I just had the 2 slides. So we can touch more on that in the Q&A at the end of the presentation and go from there. Step 3 is about your competency-based assessment. A few years back, it used to be called the work experience record or experience record, but they've renamed it to the competency-based assessment. The goal of the CBA step is to showcase your engineering work and competencies through a structured assessment process of 22 or 34 competencies. It depends on your province. You'll explain how you solved unique problems that didn't have a predetermined solution. So you want to avoid talking about day-to-day tasks and hypothetical scenarios, which don't really add value to your examples. This is an important step to validate your skills and readiness to operate at a professional level. Try to reach a score of 3 out of 5 for all competencies. I've included the rating scale in the QR code so you can scan it and just get a sense of what would score a 0 or a 1 or a 2 all the way to 5. You really want to provide examples that relate to the given competency and one of its indicators. Budget $600 for a course and review service if you want help submitting your best work examples to your association. For work examples outside of Canada, include 1 to 3 sentences at the bottom of your action section to explain how you would do things differently if that project were in Canada. This is important because the Canadian experience requirements have been softened in most provinces in Canada. However, regulators are still looking for you to explain how you have an understanding of Canadian standards when providing technical solutions at work. Let's keep going with CBA, and we'll talk about 3 commonly rejected competencies. So there are certain competencies that applicants struggle to score high on and are frequently rejected or sent back to the applicant for revisions. So let's look at just 3 of them and why their association assessors gave them low scores. For 1.1, assessors highlighted the need for detailed examples demonstrating the application of Canadian or equivalent engineering codes and standards rather than irrelevant standards or management processes. They emphasized the need that applicants should provide concrete engineering-focused examples showing how they used specific guidelines in their work affecting design or decision-making. Competency 1.7 is often rejected due to a lack of technical understanding or a focus on project management rather than engineering processes. Assessors requested detailed examples of complex systems, highlighting the applicant's technical input, system interactions, constraints, and optimization efforts in an engineering context. 2.2, written communication is frequently rejected due to grammar and spelling errors that affect the clarity and quality of the submission. Assessors recommended proofreading and maintaining consistent writing standards throughout the entire application. That's competency 1.1 to 6.5 or 7.3 to demonstrate effective communication in a professional engineering context. These are just 3 of the 10 commonly rejected competencies that we see. We go deeper into all 10 in our CBA course, but I'll just leave it at 3 for today. If you prefer not to spend money on the CBA licensing step, that's perfectly fine. You should be aware of 3 possible outcomes when submitting your CBA. So scenario 1, an excellent CBA will be accepted, allowing you to proceed to the next step. Scenario 2, a good CBA may not score high enough in some competencies, but your association will offer you a chance to improve. And scenario 3, a poorly written CBA will result in your file being closed. So we want to avoid scenario 3 and aim for scenarios 1 and 2. So we can do this by thoroughly reviewing your association's guidelines and spend at least 1 day per competency and maximizing the character count for each of your examples. In general, the more content you provide, the better you have a chance of scoring higher. Our clients have benefited from using our structured CBA course that explains the competencies and their indicators and shows them proven accepted submissions from past clients, allowing them to complete the step in about 30 days. Also, having a fresh set of eyes on your 22 or 34 competencies is a great idea to get feedback that you can use to improve your draft. So at a minimum, we recommend everyone use Grammarly.com just to check for spelling and grammar. That's a great way to improve it and tighten up some of what you're of the examples. Taking that a step further, you can get a P.Eng supervisor to provide you with some feedback on your competencies. They may not have the 6 hours to dedicate to it, or they may not really understand the rating system. So the other option is that we offer a P.Eng consultant review that will do a deep dive into 10 or 15 of your competencies. So while there are no mandatory fees in this licensing step, investing in a course and a review service is recommended to avoid stalling or restarting your application. Let's look at step 4, the NPPE. This is the final step, although some associations like in BC will let you write it earlier in the process if you want. So there's 5 sittings per year, which gives you lots of choice, and you can kind of pick whichever one, and you usually have a deadline from your association that you have to do your NPPE by a certain year and month. So just keep that in mind as well. But you should plan to study for 1 to 2 months. So pick your sitting wisely. For instance, if you decide to write in January, you're probably going to be studying through your Christmas holidays. In a similar way, if you pick September, you're probably going to be studying in August and you might have already booked your vacation. So don't just focus on the sitting, focus on what happens the 2 months before the sitting. Your exam is 110 multiple choice questions and you're given 2.5 hours to complete that process. This works out to 82 seconds per question. To get comfortable with answering questions quickly, be sure to use practice questions and a timer on your phone. You're going to write the exam from a quiet location like a home office. You must write with no aids, so that's no cheat sheets, no notes, no phone, nothing on your desk. A bathroom break is allowed, but the timer doesn't stop, so just be quick if you're going to use the washroom. Let's talk about some of the mistakes that we see clients do, or just people that contact us along the way. We see people procrastinate, which is pretty common for us engineers. We have a lot of things on our plate. We like to do things at the last minute sometimes. But studying in a week or weekend won't really work for this exam because there's 40 topics and over 250 subtopics. So it's best to leave 5 or more weeks at 1 hour per day. And the best way I like to think about it is just to build the studying into your daily routine. So take something that you used to do daily, such as watch Netflix for an hour, and just take that out and put your NPPE studying in that spot. That way you don't have to wake up early, you don't have to stay up late. You can maintain the same sleep schedule that you had. The second mistake that I see students suffering from is material overload, because they collect old notes and random practice questions from around the web and their colleagues. And this isn't smart because all that information isn't well organized. It sometimes overlaps and it's not really testing you on the right topics or in the right order. And the third mistake that I see people do with the NPPE is focusing only on practice questions. So that might have worked in university for maths and sciences, but for law, ethics, and professional practice, it doesn't really work out that way. So many writers get a set of practice questions and they memorize them, and then they complain when the practice questions don't match the exam questions. And really the purpose of doing practice questions is about testing your existing knowledge and learning how to do pacing. So you first have to develop your knowledge from a course, from course lessons or from self-study. And then once you've developed your knowledge, you've built it up to you've built a nice foundation, then you can start doing the practice questions to test and reinforce what you've learned. If you work a day job, then an NPPE prep course will save you lots of time and improve your chances. Check Google reviews to see what others are saying publicly about the course that you're considering. A good course should let you learn in different ways, such as presentations, flashcards, mind maps, practice questions, that type of thing. Let's talk about the cost of an NPPE so you can build that into your budget and not be surprised when you get halfway through the licensing process and you're asked for additional money from your association. While optional, picking up the law and ethics textbooks can be a helpful resource to learn the material and read case studies. Plus, you can reuse these textbooks in your career as you navigate ethical and law issues. The NPPE has a sitting fee of about $250, which covers the exam proctor and the administration of the exam. And lastly, we recommend investing in a prep course to make the most of your study time. Our NPPE Total Prep course has 6 hours of video presentations, 200 flashcards, mind maps, and 500 challenging practice questions. And is there for you if you want help with the process. So step 5 is the final registration. Now that you've completed your initial application, passed your exams, and had your CBA approved, the office staff will recommend you for a P.Eng with the board. So the board sits once a month, so this process can take between 1 to 2 months to be finalized. And when it's official, you'll pay a final fee of $300, which covers a professional seal, a certificate, and your induction ceremony. So we looked at the cost for the full licensing process over dozens of clients, and it boils down to 2 different scenarios: applicants with no technical exams and applicants with technical exams. So for the scenario with no technical exams, the total investment is about $1,800. And then if you do have to write technical exams, you're going to want to budget $4,000 more, or about $5,800. And so getting your P.Eng is still worth the cost and the time you dedicate to it, despite the price tag. It should be seen as one of the best investments you make in your life. Studies by the National Society of Professional Engineers found that licensed engineers earn, on average, $5,000 more per year than their unlicensed counterparts. So if you're licensed 20 years, that's an extra $100,000. On top of making more money, you become more employable. You can use the P.Eng or engineering title legally, and you're able to network with other members. There are some financial relief options to help you manage your finances and bridge the gap to when you're licensed and you have more money available. You can do personal budgeting, such as setting $250 aside each month. This doesn't make the process any less costly, but it does help you ensure that you have money there for these steps. After setting up a budget and a plan to pay for it yourself, you can still see if your company will reimburse you for fees and courses. The licensing process falls under professional development, and many firms have a budget for each employee. And as a last resort, you can consider low interest or micro lending from organizations like Achieve in Ontario, Immigrant Services Society of BC, and Windmill Microlending, which is available nationwide. I'll just go over our common mistakes to avoid, and then we'll bring in our guests shortly to help me with some of your questions. So here are a few common mistakes to avoid that we see a lot of people doing, and it doesn't really help them in the process. So I hope everyone on this call can avoid these items. So the first is blaming your association. Really, the job of the association is to approve you once you meet the minimum requirements. If you take the process seriously and put in a full effort to each step, you'll make it easy for them to say yes. Gaining more experience than needed is also a mistake. So once you have 4 years, you can start the application. If you have 8 or 10 years, it doesn't make the approval process any quicker. Seeking guidance from unqualified sources is another one that we see. We see people asking lots of licensing questions on Reddit, and many of the answers are misguided. So instead, it's best if you rely on those who breathe the licensing process every single day. So that's your association or practice PPE exams, not colleagues who went through the process one time. Focusing on other provinces is also a mistake. So each province has a slight variation of the licensing process, and you might hear that one process or one association next to you is doing things a little bit quicker, or they don't have an interview, or they have this and that. But it's not going to be any quicker to apply in that province and then transfer your license back. It's just going to end up costing you more money and likely more time as well. So the best thing to do is to stick with the province that you've started your application with. Generally, the province that you're living in is the one you're going to be applying to. So stick with that one, go through the entire process, and then once you're licensed, if you find you're working in a different province more, you can transfer it or get an additional license somewhere else. So your progress at this point, it can feel slow, but the key thing that I want to remind you is to focus on what is in your control. Dedicate 1 hour a day to your application, studying, or writing competencies. Do this for 100 days and you'll see real momentum. Stay a step ahead of the process. So start your CBA while your application is under review, and study for the NPPE while your CBA is being assessed. Also, with respect to your CBA, follow up with your CBA validators after 2 weeks. If they haven't reviewed your competencies after the 3rd week, then you can just replace them for a different validator so that you get that process moving. Small, consistent actions will lead to big results, so stay focused and keep moving forward. I've included a few QR codes on this page to help you start or continue your journey. So some things you want to do sort of in this order are: you want to do some planning, which can be done using our calculator to predict when you'll get licensed. This serves as a goal and something you can share with your employer. You want to make sure that you've actually begin the process. So you visit your association's website and you start the initial application. You want to budget and set aside money for each step in the process so that there aren't any surprises when you reach the 2nd, the 3rd, and the 4th step. And you want to make sure that you're actually working through the challenging points in the licensing journey. So these 3 licensing steps that we help you with are the technical exams, the CBA, and the NPPE. And these are the ones that people struggle with the most. So focus only on what you can control. Take the first steps and keep making daily progress, and you'll earn your P.Eng faster than you think. Or you'll get the clarity from your association on how to finish the journey. The biggest hurdle isn't the association, the exams, or your experience. It's hesitation. So stop overthinking and start moving. Thank you for listening. I'm happy to take your questions, and I'm joined here with one of our past clients, Elnaz. Hi, Elnaz. How are you? I'll just add you to the stage here.
Open my camera.
Hi, Elnaz. How are you?
Doing good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Sure. Do you want to maybe I'll start looking over the questions, and while I do that, do you want to give people a brief overview of sort of when you got licensed and what your licensing experience was?
Sure. I think I started to work on it. I mean, taking actual steps in July 2023. And then I went through 4 technical exams, and I did 2 and 2 because I thought 4 at the time might be too much for me. So that took a year. And then, so I passed all the exams. I didn't have to take any exams twice. And while I did that, so that part was complete. And then I started working on my CBA. And to be honest, my personal experience is that like the CBA for me was the hardest. The technical exams were fine to me. It was just very hard because I knew how, because I also took your course for the CBA and got some advice on my CBA. No, I know it's very, you have to put a lot of attention on your details. So when I got my license it actually got processed pretty quick. When I submitted it, meaning that my CBAs got validated and everything, and I passed the technical exam, I think it took them a month, maybe 45 days to get back to, actually it took them maybe 4 days to get back to me and say, your application is complete. This is the deadline that you can write your NPPE, and they give you 180 days. So in that deadline, I only had one chance of writing NPPE, and if I failed, I'd have to submit my application again. I think, yeah, so it was just one chance. So I took the exam in March, or was it in, wait a minute, no, it wasn't in March, it was in January. Yes, I took the exam in January, and I got the result by late February, and I passed. And then I heard back within maybe not even a month from them saying that my application is approved and I got my license. So it was relatively a fast, I mean, not fast, it depends on your timeline, but in terms of it's, if you just take the steps, it goes like you go with the flow and it happens eventually.
Yeah, that sounds great. It's great that you stuck with it and you passed when you needed to pass, and you split up your technical exams 2 and 2. I think is really smart. Some people just try and do all 4 in one sitting, and it's a lot to manage with work and with family life. So it's good to see you took a structured approach, and you just realize that you're not going to get it all done in a month or two. It's going to take a few months to complete all the steps. So that's great. Great to hear. So there's a few questions here. I'll kind of bring them up. And so Ed's asking, how much does it cost for the iron ring if you don't have one? So the iron ring is what is given when you graduated from a Canadian engineering program, and then there's a ceremony. So it's not so much related to your P.Eng, and it doesn't signify that you have a P.Eng. So if you haven't gone through an accredited engineering program, then I don't believe you can get an iron ring at that stage if you're like internationally educated. So that's something you can check on the iron ring website, which might be ironring.ca. There's a list of frequently asked questions, and then I think they ask that question, can I get an iron ring? Now, if you need just a replacement for yours, you can order them online or through the Seven Wardens or the iron ring website. Sherry Anash, I hope I'm saying that right, is asking, is good academic review performance still there? So this question is just wondering about technical exams. And if you do really well, like above 65%, I think, on your both technical exams, can the rest of them be waived? And I think that was a PEO thing back a few years ago when people could be assigned up to 15 exams. They've kind of reduced that and typically just assign people 4 exams now. So the good performance policy, I believe, has been removed. But if you want to email our team that question, we can help you with and investigate that for you. Ravi Kumar is asking.
Can I chime in quickly on
sure,
that?
Yeah.
I actually asked that question from PO, and the answer on. Can you repeat the question? Because I want to make sure, because I asked that question from PO, and I think I got the answer from them.
Okay, this was about. There it is. There.
So it's not in place anymore. It doesn't matter if you're previously, if you had a score of more than 70% on your technical exam, you get waived the remaining 2, something like that. But right now it doesn't matter. If you get a 50 or if you get a 90, you just get a pass or fail. So that's my comment.
Yeah, I think it was more for when they used to sign a dozen exams or a lot of exams, they realize, okay, if this person's scoring high on their first couple, then maybe, we don't need to have them prove that they're knowledgeable in all these different topics. Ravi Kumar is asking, can we appear? Can we take the exam? I think the NPPE before the CBA. So Ravi, that depends on your association. So in BC, EGBC lets you do the steps in any order that you want. PEO is more process. It follows a more straight line process. So you have to do your CBA kind of closer to the application, and then the NPPE is the last step. So it depends on your association whether or not you're able to do it. But just check your online portal. So after you register, you go into the portal. It'll let you know what steps typically that you can do next and what you might have to wait for. So check on the online portal. Okay, I think Ed seems to be correcting me on the iron ring. So maybe there is a way to get the iron ring if you haven't graduated through a Canadian engineering program. So all the information will be on the iron ring website. So you can check those frequently asked questions if anyone watching needs their iron ring or wants to get one. Thanks, Ed, for that clarification. Jay is asking about using AI to rate your competencies. So I've had this conversation with different associations, and they don't want you to write AI for your competencies. They want it to be done in your words and to reflect your work experience. But if you use a tool like Grammarly and it kind of adjusts your writing, that's stuff they don't seem to be cracking down on. So it's as long as what you're presenting is in your own words for the most part, and it reflects what you actually did. If you hand it off to AI and it writes something completely that you haven't done or embellishes your skills to a large degree, that's where there's going to be some issues. They have said that they recognize that there are AI tools that check for AI use, and they all kind of have different results. So some of them will say, yes, this one's 100% AI use. Some will say, no AI use, and some will be in the middle. So it doesn't seem to be like they're using tools to check for that because the results are very inconsistent. So in our competency course, we have different tools to give you scenarios and even to check and provide comments on your competency examples. The purpose there is not for you to copy and paste into your examples, is just to give you ideas about how to make improvements. They're really suggestions, and then that should help you remember past facts or ways to explain it differently, and then you can use it in that way. So AI shouldn't be used to replace your writing. It should just be used to help you sort of revise and improve it. Let's see here. Olu is wondering what's the time interval between the CBA and the NPPE. So again, it depends on the province. Some provinces let you do them one after another. Some will let you kind of do them at the same time if you want. I wouldn't worry too much about the time delay. I would just worry about if you've submitted something like your CBA and you're waiting for an assessment and the NPPE is next, start studying for the NPPE next. Or if you've written your NPPE and you're waiting 3 weeks to get the results, then start writing competencies. So each association will have a different review timeline. Some associations are taking up to 6 months to review the CBA. So that's a great time where you can start studying and you can do other things in your application. Mayor is wondering how many chances are there for the CBA? So how many attempts can I resubmit my CBA? And as I discussed earlier in an earlier slide, if I can go back there. Maybe Maybe can I go back there? Let me see if I can go back here to the CBA. Oh, I think I just talked about it, and actually, I didn't show it, but I did talk about it. So there's kind of three scenarios that we've seen with clients or people who are not our client, but want to use our services because they've submitted and then they didn't kind of submit it properly. So scenarios one is you submit a great CBA and it's accepted, and then you don't have to do any back and forth. Scenario two is you submit most of your 34 or 22 competencies pretty well, and they realize that, okay, this person's on the right track, but maybe three to five are low scoring. So then they'll send them back to you with comments, and they'll give you another chance to resubmit them. And you really only get one chance to resubmit at that point. And then the third scenario is someone who just writes kind of like one or two sentences for each competency because they don't really understand that you're supposed to, this is a professional document. And unfortunately, we've seen associations come back with a letter saying, we're going to be closing your file because you're not meeting the minimum standards, and you can do an appeal letter if you want, but if we don't hear from you in 60 days, we're going to close your file. So you don't want to be in that scenario where they're closing your file and you have to start again. So it's important that you write quality examples and take the process seriously, so that even if some are low scoring, they'll still give you a second chance to resubmit. P.Eng is asking, I've completed my bachelor's degree from abroad and did master's in Canada. Will I need to give technical exams to get the P.Eng? So the master's isn't really factored anymore into the licensing decision in, I think, all provinces. So whether you have a master's or not doesn't provide any benefit anymore. So it's really what they're going to be doing is comparing your bachelor's degree versus a Canadian equivalent bachelor's degree, and if there's any gaps, they'll assign exams. Now, if your school and program is Washington Accord approved, then they'll probably look at that and say, okay, this university is part of the Washington Accord, and so there'll be a better chance that they waive those exams, but it's not necessarily guaranteed because the associations have the authority to override agreements like the Washington Accord if they feel there's a higher duty to public safety. So if they notice something that isn't sitting well with them, they could still sign technical exams, even if you're from an approved school international from outside of Canada. Harsh is asking, as an international graduate with over 4 years of experience, I plan to apply for a P.Eng with a PECA. Is a technical exam mandatory for all international graduates? So Harsh, yeah, we just kind of mentioned this one. If your school's accredited, the technical exams might be waived. In Alberta, sometimes they assign the Canadian technical exams, and sometimes they let you write the American FE exam instead. So you might have your choice. They might give you that choice to write one or the other. So if you prefer the 6-hour FE exam, you might like to go that way instead of writing a few 3-hour Canadian technical exams. I think we'll just take 2 more questions, and then my contact stuff is here if people have questions, and I should be able to save this transcript, so I might be able to get back to people by email. But I know people are this is early in the morning for them during their workday, and some people are on their lunch break, so I don't want to take up too much of everyone's time. Let's see if so we have someone asking, we have Funk asking about, as an EIT, is there a possibility of being asked to do the technical exams? So in order to be an EIT in most provinces, you have to be a Canadian grad, which means you've probably likely already gone to an accredited school, which means the chances of technical exams are quite low because technical exams are usually assigned for internationally educated engineers who have a degree outside of Canada from a non-accredited school. So if you're from an accredited school, you probably won't have to write technical exams. But again, with a lot of these things, I don't want people not to get started because they might have to do this, or this might get rejected, or a competency might not be improved. It's important just to start taking the steps without the complete information. So it's a bit like walking in fog. You're the destination you're not going to be able to see, but you're going to be able to see 2 or 3 steps ahead of yourself. So it's important just to take those first few steps, and then you'll be able to see the next few steps. So that's the way I want you to think about this process, because it can take, some time, months, and maybe a year and a bit, but it's just important to take a few steps into that fog, and then it'll make the process a lot easier. I have another question from Madhafar. I have the NPPE exam scheduled for June, and I'm currently enrolled in your course. Concurrently, I'm working as a cost control as PQS following the successful completion of the NPPE. Will this enhance my prospects in CBA? So earlier in the presentation, I provided the scoring matrix between 0 and 5 for the CBA. And that's really what you want to focus on, not so much your role or your company or necessarily projects. Focus on if you can achieve a 3 out of 5 in all the different areas, because sometimes people are an engineering designer, and you could have 2 engineering designer, one who does design work, and one person who gets the manager's coffee or something like that, right? So everyone's going to have even though they're the same title, someone's going to be qualified, and someone's going to maybe not have taken their job as seriously, or not have been given opportunities by their employer or whatever, and won't be ready for a license. So focus less on the type of work that you're doing or your title, and focus more on the 0 to 5 scoring matrix for the CBA, and let that guide you to assess if you're ready or not. But again, it's like taking those steps in the fog. Like, you won't know. No one's going to tell you ahead of time, yes, you're going to be perfect for all competencies, or no, you're going to be rejected, right? So it's about putting your best foot forward, submitting your CBA, and then waiting for feedback from your association, and hopefully it'll be scenario 1, which is everything's accepted, or scenario 2, please revise these 3 competencies. Okay, we'll try one more from Rayanne. And her question is, I've taken the NPPE already and passed, thanks to your training course. PEO then sent a letter stating that my 4 years experience will only start on the day of passing the NPPE in 2024, even though I have experience dating back to 2019 in Canada. So I guess you're wondering, is there a way to start counting from before? So I'm not, that's a very use specific question. So we're going to have to dig into more detail. So if you can email that question to our team after the webinar, we can look at what PEO sent you, and you can give us your kind of side, and then we can kind of let you know how to proceed with if an appeals might be worthwhile, or if there's some reason behind why you're losing those 4 years of experience and having to start over. And Jay is wondering if anyone else is here from BC. So Jay, I'm hoping that there's other people here from BC. I didn't have a chance to look through the register list, but yes, we help people in EGBC, APEGA, EGM, APEGAS, PEO, all across Canada. So there should be other people here from BC. And if you have any BC specific questions, the people in BC use the same CBA as in Ontario, and the same NPPE across Canada. So the process isn't too different. there. But I'd like to just thank Elnaz for joining today and being our special guest. She got licensed in 2025 with PEO, and we're excited to have her here and share her story with you. And thank you for joining, everyone who was following along and the people who might be watching this after. And if you need help with your licensing journey, we'd be delighted to help you. There's a couple of QR codes there. You can get in touch with us, and we really appreciate you joining us today. And I wish you all the best with your P.Eng journey.